Hey, this is Brock Lemires, and in this video, I'm going to talk about command line navigation in the Linux environment. All right, so here's where we've gotten to. We've looked at our programming overview. We understand that we're going to do all our work on the CSCI 109 server at MSU, but we're going to access it using our own machine through a secure shell internet connection or secure shell connection. On your computer, most likely you're running Windows, so you had to kind of go through and learn how to do command line navigation on Windows. So we went through those things. Now what we're going to do is look at the command line interface of Linux, which is the operating system that runs over here on the CSCI 109. But again, you're going to do this through first launching PowerShell. So I'm going to launch PowerShell over on my computer, okay, and on my Windows machine. And let me change a few properties here just to let me get the font a little bit bigger so you can see it better. The font takes place immediately, but if you want the color to change, you have to actually launch it again. So if I came in here and did this properties and I said, give me screen background, I want black, okay? It doesn't happen right away. So I could do exit and then I could launch PowerShell again. So let me launch it here, I'm typing PowerShell into the search box and now here I am again. Okay, so the font stayed, but nothing else. I mean, the background changed. Okay, so here I am. And what I'm going to do is SSH over into the Linux server. So I'm going to change back into, I always change into the CSCI directory that I created just because if I ever copy files back, it'll go into there. And we'll learn how to do that later. So I'm going to go ahead and SSH over. Remember, you can use the up arrow to get to your command history. And that command history is there even if you exit out of PowerShell. So remember, you type in SSH, your net ID, and then at csci109.cs.montana.edu. That was on my command history. So when I cycled through these, I just looked up, got to SSH, and hit return. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and log in, put in my password. It doesn't echo it, so you got to just hope you got it. Messed up, so I'm going to now do it again. No problem. And I'm in. Okay, so now here's the interesting part about it. I'm going to go ahead and move this kind of up here. You're in Linux, right? And there's a few subtle things that are different. Okay, so first of all, clear works. Clear will clear the screen. That's always handy. Okay, you get in there, you type clear. Another thing that's interesting is present working directory. That works. Notice that your directories look a little bit different. There's no more C colon or D colon. What you have is called a home directory. So there is, on a Linux operating system, there is this thing called home, and every user who logs in gets their own folder. So I am in a folder called K91H784. That's my username. This is where I can create files. The directories are denoted with a / now instead of a / like on Windows. And you notice that / by itself is just kind of your base. You're at your base mount. Okay. So you're never going to mess around with anything outside of your home directory, but this is what it looks like. So if I do present working directory, I'm there. If I do clear, it works. If I do who am I, it tells me K91H784. And watch this one. If I do host name, it also works CSCI 109. Okay, so that is handy. All right, so let's take a look at some commands that are very useful. So let's take a look at the ones that we just did. We have clear, perfect. Who am I? Perfect. Host name, perfect. Present working directory, perfect. Now let's talk about looking at the files that exist within this home directory. If I do ls, that stands for listing. And it will list all the different files and folders that are in this directory. I have a ton in here because I've been working on this class. So I have a whole bunch of these different folders. They're blue because they're folders. Let me change into one of them and let's take a look at like what a file would look like. So let me change into like week 14 and I'm this in class. And so I'm gonna say in class and I'm gonna go ahead and do an ls and look at this now. I see white, I see green, I see gray. The green is a file that can be executed, okay? The white is typically a text file. So you notice in here, I'm seeing stuff like file_in.c, Guess what? That's a C program. I have something called like file in and file out that are green. Those are actually executables. So what I did is, and this is what we're going to be doing over and over and over. I developed a C program file, I saved it, and I compiled it, and it created an executable for me. Okay. So it's a lot of stuff on the screen. So let me clear that. Let me do an ls, and there's all my files in here. Okay. Now, if I wanted to see that same information in a different format, I could do LL, which is, I think it stands for long listing. And it gives me everything in order, like in a list, but it also gives me information about when it was modified. It gives me the number of bytes. So it tells me the size. And then it tells me some other information about like who created it, who all has read-write privileges. You don't have to really worry about this at this point. All you really care about is navigating around. Okay, so just like in Windows, we use CD to the directory and CD ... to go up. So if I look at where I'm at right now, I'm in my home directory and then week 14 in class. Let's go up one. So I'm gonna go up CD ... I say present working directory, and now I'm in my home directory, and I can do LL and see all the folders, or I can do LS and look at that. Okay, so I'm like, okay, well, I can see everything in there. You can also make directories. So let's say I did make dir, and I said, I'm going to call it temp. Now I make that, and now I have, if I go ls, I see temp right there. And now let's change into it. CD temp. All right, that's nice. So I do present working directory, and then let's do make directory, another one called t temp 22 or 222, and then let's change into that. Again, tab will autocomplete. And now I look at where I'm at, and I'm like, oh, one nice thing in Linux is that if you ever want to return to your home directory, you could go like this. You could go ... /... and that would take you up two directories. You can also just type CD, and that will take you back. So anytime you get way down in a big path and you're like, I just want to get home, just type CD and it'll take you there. Okay. Another thing that's interesting is if I go back in this temp 22, if I wanted to do, let's say I wanted to change into week 14 in class, I could do this. I could go CD ... and then week 14. Let me see here, week 14 in class. It auto completed that because I went up one, and then down into one. So fine, I did it. Now let's go back into my temp one. I'm going to go back one, and then I'm going to go into temp. Let's see, temp, and then into temp 222, and there I am. All right, present working directory, and here I am. I'm like, okay, this is cool. I could also do this. I could go CD, and if I do the tilde, that also means home. So I could do that and say week 14, and that would also be the equivalent of going home. These commands are the basics of getting around. And there's so many Linux commands. You don't have to learn them all when you first start. What you want to do is just get the basics down in order to navigate around, make directories, change into directories, change back out of directories, copy files, move files. And then as you go, what happens is that you'll be like, I wonder if there's a command that does this. And if you ever wonder if there's a command that does that, then more than likely there is. All right. And so then you would go to like Google it and find the commands. There's a ton of different commands, but like ls and LL, use those all the time. Let's do a copy really quick. So a copy and a move. So I have all these files in here. So this, let's say T out. I don't even know what this is. If I wanted to change the file name, or no, let's copy it. Let's copy tout.txt to something else. Copy is CP in Linux, and I'm going to go tout.txt, and let's call it Brock was here.txt. I do another listing, and holy moly, Brock was here.txt. Now let's move this. Let's change the file name by moving this file to a new name. So that's how you can move folders or you can move files to new names. So if I go move Brock was here, look at how I'm auto completing with the tab. Makes it go very fast. Let's say Lemir's was 2.txt. And now I look at it. I've changed the file. It's right there now. Okay. So you basically have, you can copy, you can move. What if I want to remove something? I do remove, and then I do Lemir's was here. It's gone. All right. Life is good. A couple other interesting things. sometimes there are hidden files that have a that start with a dot and you don't show them when you do a listing. If I do an LL-A, it'll show me anything that starts with a dot. So in this situation, I had a dot and a dot dot, which represent like going back. But if I had a file, watch, let me do this. I'm going to move tout.text to dot tout.text. And I go, okay. I look at it and it's gone, right? And it's like, it's not showing. That's because it's kind of a hidden file. So if I do an LL-A, I can then see any files that have dots on them. That becomes important when you're messing around and like a file gets, you get like kicked out of the server while you're editing a file. It'll like save like a crash report and it won't allow you to open that file again. So you have to like look at the hidden files and then be like, okay, I need to remove that hidden file. Okay. All right. Just like in Windows, the up arrow will cycle through your command history, up and down arrow, and the tab is autocomplete. When you watch people that use Linux for a living, they are just burning through commands so fast you can't even figure out what they're doing. Don't worry about that. That takes years of being in the Linux environment to understand. For you, all you need to know in this class is how to do basic navigation, create files, create folders, move around. And then as you want to do more and more, you can go find commands to do more and more. Okay. One thing that's very important is when you run a file. Okay. So let me come in here and you don't even know what this is yet, right? It's there. You're going to build an executable in C. And I know that I have two, one's called file in and file out, and I can run those. So if I wanted to run them, all I do is I type file out. The problem is if I hit that, it doesn't know where file out is. Even though I know that's an executable that I created and I can run it, Linux doesn't understand what it does. Linux has this thing called a path, okay? And it's an environment variable set up by somebody else, not us, where it basically says anytime somebody types a command like ls, it's going to go search in a path to try to find that command and try to figure out what you're trying to do. When we run our own files, like our own executables, it's not in the path, right? It's in our current folder that we just created. So we have to tell Linux, instead of looking for this command in the path, I want you to look in this directory specifically. And the way you do that is by typing the dot. Okay. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go ls and I'm going to look at this and I'm going to go dot / file out and see what happens. Okay. That was a horrible program example. What it did is create a file. Let me go get one that actually spits something to the real world here. So present working directory. Okay. So I'm in my home. Let me look at this. ls. I'm going to go into, let's do your first homework. Homework 03. Let's go in here, P1. Okay, so I have this thing called printf. I'm going to go dot / printf, and it runs, and it printed out a bunch of stuff. Okay, it printed out a whole bunch of stuff. If I go back and I want to run another file, let me go into, I know I'm going to do homework, go to P2. Let's see what's in here. Nothing. Notice I'm going way faster than supposedly you guys will, but okay, so we got it. We got it. So you saw how to do it. Let me do this one more time. I'm going to go into homework. Actually, you know what? Let me do this. I want to show you Hello World. So week 02, and I'm going to do, that ain't it, week 03. You'll create all these files. Okay, let me run printf testing. Printf testing. Okay, some stuff about me. My name is Brock. I love quotes. I ran that by doing dot / printf testing. This right here, dot / tells it look in this directory. We call it the Sonny Holland because his famous quote is now is the time and this is the place. That's the way I remember what this dot is. Okay. So it's like you are going to look right in where you're at. So wherever you're at, it's going to look for that executable to run. Okay. If that didn't make sense, don't worry about it because it will make sense once we start creating our own files and actually developing programs and compiling them and executing them. Okay, all right, that is the basic starter kind of list of commands for the Linux command line environment on the CSCI 109 server. All right, see ya.